The witnesses that I had interviewed, the only individuals that I know or had met prior to this investigation was Julie, Chris Albert, and Colin Albert. These came from me. Funny, I'm going through his client's phone. No nude so far. I hate that man. I truly hate him. Yes, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass.
So will the lead investigator in Karen Reed's case take the stand in her retrial? Our power panel weighs in on whether the prosecution needs to call Trooper Michael Proctor. And music legend Smokey Robinson speaking out after being accused in a $50 million lawsuit by his former housekeepers. They're alleging sex assault. Plus, we're spotlighting the emotional sentencing of Dixie Villa, the babysitter, getting the maximum sentence in baby Abigail Lobish's overdose death. The victim's mother addresses the defendant. And also coming up this hour, tense moments at a hearing for an Ohio father who's accused of fatally hitting a deputy with his car a day after his son was killed by police. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Thursday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for what I like to say is some coffee and some court? On this show every weekday morning, we get you all warmed up and ready to go for the big day ahead on Court TV Live. So right now, let's start it off as we always do. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. The only thing predictable about juries is their unpredictability. Any good trial attorney will tell you that sometimes you win cases that you should lose, and sometimes you lose cases that you should win. We saw some unpredictability on Wednesday with the acquittal of the 3 former Memphis police officers accused in the death of Tyree Nichols. Many of us saw that awful video and thought that this was an open and shut case. Clearly, the jury saw the evidence differently. I didn't get to watch the trial. I only saw a few clips of Nichols' mom and her heartbreaking testimony. So I really can't give an opinion that's completely informed on the proof that was presented. But I can say this, I feel strongly that no parent should ever have to bury their child. It's unnatural, it's unfair, and it comes with unimaginable pain. So while I can't speak for the members of the jury, I can say that my heart goes out to the entire Nichols family. And I pray that God gives them comfort and peace. This trial is just one more example of how we can never assume that a jury is seeing the case the way that we may be. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Had you and Crystal ever talked about breaking up?
I mean, obviously we had fought just like any other any other couple, but in the last several years, I mean, it's came up, but we've always found ourselves together moving forward.
Here's what we've got. In Kentucky, defendant Brooks Halk in court today for a motions hearing. This guy's the primary suspect charged with the murder of his girlfriend, Crystal Rogers. Her body still hasn't been found. Court's going to start up at 9 a.m. Eastern time. In New York, we have got Sean Diddy Combs and the jury selection in his federal sex trafficking case expected to be finished by tomorrow. The hope was it would be done yesterday. As of now, they've got 45 prospective jurors finalized. So they do things in a group setting, and then they do the more individual voir dire and strikes. So we'll keep you posted when they get the jury seated. Now, in Massachusetts, we've got testimony resuming this morning in defendant Karen Reed's retrial. She's being accused of killing her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. That is your top story here on Opening Statements. The Commonwealth resuming its case at 9 a.m. They have got the burden of proof. And what we're wondering this morning is, will we see them call Trooper Michael Proctor to the stand? So he was the lead investigator in Karen Reed's case, and back in March, he was dishonorably discharged after facing a state police trial board over allegations of misconduct while working on the Reed case. Now, to be very clear, he did not plant any evidence. There was no finding of such a thing. The discharge was for unsatisfactory performance and consuming alcohol on duty. What he did do wrong was he sent some text messages to family, friends from his work phone about the case. That is totally improper. You'll recall he testified in the first trial, and the defense and the prosecution talked to him a lot about his text messages that were off color about Karen Reed.
So these came from me. From all accounts, he didn't do anything wrong. She's a whack job.
Objection.
So don't spell it. You have to, so these are your words, Trooper Proctor?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead and say them.
Yes, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass.
All right, so the question we're asking our power panel this morning, does the prosecution need to call Trooper Proctor? I've thought a lot about this. I was a prosecutor. If it were me, I would not call him. And here's why. If there is someone else who saw whatever he did, let's say the gathering of the pieces of the taillight, if there's another witness to that who's still a member of the police force, you can call them and get the testimony in that way. And typically, I want to point out something else. When you prosecute a case, usually you have your affiant, the person who files the charges, sitting there with you at counsel table. Notice, he's not there. Okay, so I'm speaking from my experience. I wouldn't do it if I wasn't able to, and I would have the defense do it. I would put that on them. You may feel differently. Send us your thoughts on social media. Let's bring in our power panel. I want to pose this question to them. We've got two lawyers and a journalist on the panel. I want to welcome in the co-hosts of the Murder Sheet podcast, Anya Kane and Kevin Greenlee, and attorney John Phillips, attorney to the stars, as we like to call him. Good morning to you all. All right, so feel free to disagree with me. We've debated it a lot. We've talked a lot about it here at Court TV Network, and I want to get all your thoughts on what you think the prosecution should do. John Phillips, would you start us off, please?
I agree with you, Julie. Like the risk versus reward, right? So he's not at counsel table. I think we can take that as a sign. You know, what are you gaining that you can't get from another witness? And if that's if you can cover most of your bases through another investigator, through another law enforcement officer, through fact witnesses, why put them up there and show the bias? And now they're going to get into discipline and alcohol and it's just, you know, again, as a storyteller, as you said in opening statement, you know, we win some, we should lose, we lose some, we should win, but we've got to stack our deck as best as possible when presenting a case to a jury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so true, John. You know, and it doesn't preclude the defense from calling him, as you all know. You know, they can do it, and it kind of flips the script a little bit. They're the ones who want to paint him out to be the bad guy. Anya Kane, let me go to you next, please. What do you think the Commonwealth should do here?
Well, Julie, I hate to say it, but I do agree with you and John. I think John just summed it up really nicely. I think the one benefit from calling Proctor would be to kind of confront some of this stuff head on, but why not just leave that to the defense? I mean, I think at this point, Brennan has been very successful at sort of sidelining a lot of these defense conspiracy theories. And by bringing in Proctor, it could complicate that. It's showing the jury that the Commonwealth is very defensive about that and is maybe a little bit, you know, sweaty about bringing him in and dispelling that. So why not just let the defense bring that up and destroy it on cross? And as we know, being a detective, investigating is a team effort, it is a team sport, it is not one sole individual coming in and doing everything. So if they don't need to do it, why do it?
Right. You hit on something so key, Anya, and of course you would. You're a masterful storyteller, and, you know, it's all about telling that story, right? The prosecution is precisely trying this case with the story that they need to present of what happened that day and why, and they're ignoring so much of the noise, as you said, the noise that the defense team has called. Last year, Adam Lally, you know, he tried his best, but he went on defense. It was like he tried the case backwards. It was like he was so much anticipating what the defense was going to do that he put up witnesses he didn't need to put up. If you don't need to call them, why call them? Okay, Kevin Greenlee, tapping into your experience, you are an attorney. What would you do here? Let's say you're Hank Brennan. What would you do? Would you not call him, put it on the defense, or would you call him like Lally did last year?
Excuse me. I agree with what everyone else has been saying. I think if you call him yourself, you're kind of, for lack of a better word, you're allowing that the view of Proctor and what he did to possibly taint the actions of other investigators. I would use the other investigators to present what happened and to give an implicit message to the jury. Maybe this guy Proctor was not so crucial in the investigation as the defense would like us to believe.
Right, right. You know, great point there, Kevin. Let's kind of, dovetail off of that a little bit. So in terms of what he's done, and you all know this, when we have cases, obviously we have different witnesses who witness different things. We have eyewitnesses. We have people that are not eyewitnesses necessarily, but they may offer something that's a bit tangential that can be relevant for whatever the circumstances are. John Phillips, going back to you here, when we really think about it, Proctor might have filed the charges, but in terms of him being hands-on, not at the scene, not even involved until the next day, other people are present when he's at work. Would you kind of take us into the courtrooms where I want people to understand just because someone files doesn't mean that they did it all. Would you kind of bring us behind the scenes and talk about what you see day in and day out in trial practice?
We've seen some of that this week in the YNW Melly case too. Like, he had a bond hearing, he ultimately was denied bond, but it was trying the law enforcement case. We could date that back to O.J. Simpson and Mark Furman, and you don't necessarily need the one guy who's been the lead voice and the kind of the synthesized voice for all of the work of a bunch of law enforcement. Look, as trial lawyers, we steal from everybody or are handed down stuff. And Keith Mitnick got something from Jerry Spence, two amazing trial lawyers. Embrace the horror, right? So you want, as a trial lawyer, to tell the jury and get all the bad facts out if you have to. But if you don't have to, and you can just kind of shove it down in the bottom shelf of the defense case, you kind of want to go there. And like you said, Julie, with law enforcement, you love a singular voice, but you can have multiple voices. The choir works too.
Yes, I love that, John Phillips. Yes, and quite a choir we've got singing here in this trial. Anya, let me go to you here, please. The difference the new prosecutor has made in presenting that story, I would love for you to weigh in on the picture you're seeing so far, please.
Absolutely. I think the beauty of the story that Hank Brennan is telling is that it is partially narrated by the defendant herself. I mean, it's incredible to see again and again. We have some direct examination, some cross-examination back and forth, and then we have Karen Reed in her own words coming across to the jury in exactly the way Hank Brennan wants her to. I mean, it certainly is, I think, a warning for all attorneys. I'm sure it's giving a lot of defense attorneys heartburn seeing this, just a defendant basically stating some of these things which could potentially be seen as super damaging to her case and frankly her likability with the jury. So I mean, I think what Hank Brennan is doing is very masterful in that sense, and just sort of letting her tell part of the story. We see again and again sometimes defendants can be their own worst witnesses where they're just saying things that they shouldn't, and he's really exploiting that.
Yes, well said. She's narrating the story largely for us. Kevin Greenlee, I want to end with you and some final thoughts here as we look ahead to whether Trooper Proctor is going to be called. Tell me, in terms of the prosecution's position on him, what position would you take in terms of what to acknowledge that was wrong and what to point out that was right for the jury?
I think what it's absolutely crucial to point out are some of the points you've just mentioned, that he wasn't there. He didn't have an opportunity to plant anything. at the crime scene. He didn't do anything improper substantively about the investigation itself. Certainly, these texts are unfortunate, don't make him look great, but they do not affect the actual integrity of the investigation itself.
Amen. You're absolutely right. And in something like that, I would think that Hank Brennan would say something almost exactly like what you said. You know, yeah, they're unfortunate, they're distasteful, it's, you know, rude and crude and all that. But like, look, I mean, come on. That's very different than planting evidence, and I can't say it enough. He did not plant anything. There was never a finding of that, and so important distinction, as you noted, Kevin, to make. We will leave it there for now, and on the Murder Sheet podcast, you have done an episode on this case. For any of our viewers who haven't listened to it, download it now. Thank me later. Anya Kane, Kevin Greenlee, thank you so much for coming back on the show. We'll see you soon. John Phillips is coming with us. I want you to do the same at home, please. Here's what's coming up.
My life has been defined by grief and loss, and the pain of living without Abby is a heavy weight I will carry every single day for the rest of my life, and until Abby and I are finally reunited. Sorry.
Oh, my. Defendant Dixie Villa sentenced to 20 years in prison for baby Abigail's overdose death. And little Abigail's mother gave a very emotional impact statement. We'll share it with you. And Smokey Robinson speaks out after allegations of sex assault by his former housekeepers.
Karen Reed, a killer girlfriend?
She's guilty.
Or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Reed was raped!
Karen Reed is accused of murdering her police officer boyfriend.
Defendant stated repeatedly, I hit him, I hit him.
She may end up taking the stand. Her first trial ended with a hung jury. They haven't proven anything.
Will a jury finally agree on a verdict?
We know who did it.
The Karen Reed murder retrial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Don't be confused. The way is clear. And if you want it, you got it forever.
Oh, he still sounds so good, doesn't he? That's a little piece of Smokey Robinson's NPR Tiny Desk performance from last year. The music legend currently on tour right now, celebrating the 50th anniversary of his Quiet Storm album. But unfortunately, he's finding himself trending in true crime this morning for a more serious headline, as some former housekeepers of his are accusing the 85-year-old of rape and sexual battery. On Tuesday, 4 former housekeepers filed a lawsuit seeking at least $50 million in damages over alleged sexual misconduct by the singer, which allegedly took place, they say, between the years 2007 all the way to 2024. Now, Smokey's wife, Frances, was also named in the lawsuit. All 4 women, only identified as Jane Does, say that they feared coming forward over fears of public shame and possible effects on their immigration status. Robinson's lawyer fired back at the allegations, saying in part, quote, "Through this process, we've seen the bizarre theatrics of Tuesday's news conference as the plaintiff's attorneys outlined vile, false allegations against Mr. and Mrs. Robinson. We ask anyone following this case to reserve judgment as the evidence comes to light and all the actual facts of the case unfold." Now, the timing of these allegations are what we're questioning this morning here on Opening Statements. Why didn't this come out during the Me Too movement? Let's bring in our power panel. Still with me, celebrity attorney John Phillips. Want to welcome in the former co-host of the Hot 97 morning show, Lisa G., and family law attorney Jennifer Brandt. Great to see you all this morning. Lisa G., let me start with you. You know Smokey. You've met him. He's come on your show. Tell us, what do you think about these allegations coming out now when our country had this huge reckoning with sex assault with the Me Too movement some years ago?
Well, Julie, hi, good morning. Thanks for having me. Never a dull day in the world of entertainment. You know, sometimes when there are cases like this, and of course I'm not an attorney, it's just a question of how you feel, personally about coming together and, filing such a huge lawsuit against such a mega celebrity. And so maybe it was just the timing for all of them. He has a new album out. And so I can't speak for these women. And so if you ask many of people or, women who do file lawsuits, it's just a question of when they're ready. And no one can really answer that. But it may be the timing of, okay, I'm not working for him now. He has a new album out. He's going out on tour. And this might be a good time for everyone to file a case like this.
Yes, Lisa, excellent points you made. And thank you for sharing those beautiful pictures with us, you with Smokey in the past. Really great, to see that. There we go. We got it up again. You look beautiful. That's awesome. And where was that, Lisa? Give us some of the backstory, please.
Okay. Yeah, sure. That was at iHeartRadio. I was sitting at my desk, and he turned the corner, and he was just on American Idol. And I turned to him and I said, wow, you looked great last night. That was a great blue suit. And of course, who doesn't love a compliment? He was so nice, Julie, like beyond, very personable. I said to him, how do you look so good at 83? He was 83 at the time. He goes, well, I stretch every morning. I do yoga. And if you go online, you can see that he posts many of those videos. But couldn't have been nicer. I'm telling you, I was in shock when I heard about this lawsuit.
That's awesome to hear. That's really awesome to hear. And that was just a, by chance meeting, right? It's not like, he knew or anything. And so just to have that human moment, just pay someone a compliment.
Very nice guy. Very nice. Very personable.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. Lisa, thank you for that as well. Jennifer Brandt, I'd love to get your thoughts, please, on this.
Well, Julie, it's interesting that these women didn't come forward at the Me Too movement, because at that time, a lot of celebrities were under fire. A lot of people were coming forward for past assaults that they claimed that they had. So it was sort of a big time for people to be, having these trials. But now people are a little more skeptical, and I think juries are a little more skeptical. We've seen a little bit of a reverse of the Me Too movement and questioning whether people really have pure motives in coming forward, or are they just looking to make some money. We don't know in this case, but we do know that we have 4 people claiming sort of the same type of claims against him that occurred over a very long period of time. So, why didn't they complain at the time? Why weren't any criminal charges filed? I mean, they say they're concerned about their immigration status, and that may be, but now, I mean, a lot of people are concerned about immigration status, so I don't think things have improved necessarily. So, we just have to see what happens, how the facts are established in this case. But I think people are a little more skeptical now about these claims than they were, perhaps in 2017.
That's a really, really important point. Jennifer, thank you for that. Excellent analysis. John Phillips, last but not least on this question, I certainly want to get your thoughts. Why now, do you think, with this suit?
Excuse me, Julie. I got to get all my stretches in so I can look that good at 85. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. All right. It's
you
not
look
going to work. So, thank you. So, yeah, the question that I want to know, so I've been on all sides of these type cases. And, the speech that I give, and I listen real carefully, is justice is spelled one way. It's defined many different ways. What is justice to you? And in this case, I want to hear about criminal justice. I want to hear held accountable. I don't want to hear necessarily, I want $50 million. And then there's the court of public opinion. And so, you really listen. What I really want to know is how did these multiple women, I think 3, know each other? Like, did they work at the same time? When one lawyer's involved, it's again, this is it all should be taken seriously. But I agree with the panel that there was a better time to file this lawsuit. There's no bad time to go after your assaulter and your harasser. And, there's certainly claims of racist fear of retaliation, but yeah, these cases sometimes arise more questions than answers, and attorneys need to take them seriously. I've turned down, not against Smokey, but similar cases saying it's a long time ago and I just don't see it. I need evidence.
Right. John, you're making such great points here. So it's one thing to just say someone did something, but it must be substantiated, as you said. And so just a brief look at what we were able to extract from the complaint that was filed. One woman says she was assaulted at least 20 times from 2012 to 2024. Another woman says from 2014 until 2020, she was assaulted at least 23 times. Before quitting in 2024, the third accuser says that she was assaulted at least 7 times. The fourth woman cited similar experiences to the other 3 women. And as we mentioned, Smokey Robinson's wife, Frances Robinson, is also named in the suit. And the allegations against her are that she enabled his behavior despite knowing about his alleged past sexual misconduct. The complaint alleges that she created a hostile work environment for these housekeepers. Okay, so this is a whole nother issue, a whole nother can of worms, really, whether or not his wife had any involvement here. Lisa G., let me go back to you. Your thoughts on them naming his wife, too, in this?
Right. I think, of course, I don't know the women involved. I think they were just scared, and maybe now they're not so much. So, and also with his wife, look, I'm not her. I can't speak for her. Maybe she didn't want to disrupt her lifestyle. Or, when you turn a blind eye, you can just keep going on with your life, living in beautiful mansions, having beautiful clothes and jewelry and cars. That might be part of it.
Right. Well said. We'll leave it there for now, stressing that just allegations in civil court, nothing in criminal court, no criminal charges. And as far as we know, nobody ever went to police if these things did happen. So another great point there. Look, we'll leave it here for now. But of course, if anything more comes out in this case, you'll see it right here on Opening Statements. Jennifer Brandt and John Phillips are coming with us. Lisa G., we've got to say goodbye to you. Thank you for coming on the show this week. It's been such a treat having you twice. We'll look forward to having you back again soon. Take good care. And still ahead here on Opening Statements.
Abby's life mattered. And she has made a difference, even though she was taken far too soon. My hope is that Abby's story has educated others enough to not make the same poor choices the defendant made that night.
Baby Abigail's mom breaking down. We are shining the spotlight on the sentencing of Dixie Villa. And the father of a man who was shot by police now accused of killing a deputy. Was this an act of revenge? This morning, we're shining the spotlight on the sentencing of a babysitter convicted in the death of a 7-month-old girl. Denise Dixie Villa was found guilty of manslaughter after she gave baby Abigail Lobish a fatal dose of Benadryl. Late Wednesday in Hawaii, we heard a very emotional victim impact statement from the baby's mom.
Your Honor, I stand before you today as a mother whose world was shattered when my beautiful daughter Abby was taken from me on February 23rd, 2019. Please don't be confused by the date. A mother's intuition is never wrong. From that day to today, May 7th, 2025, it has been over 6 long years, more than 2,260 days. In all that time, my heart has never stopped hurting. My life has been defined by grief and loss, and the pain of living without Abby is a heavy weight I will carry every single day for the rest of my life, and until Abby and I are finally reunited. Sorry. I was told to come up here and to talk about Abby. The reality is, she was taken from me before I had the chance to see who she would become. She came into this world as quickly as she was taken out by the defendant. Abby was a sweet baby, so loving, so full of light. She had the kindest eyes, and anyone who met her instantly fell in love with her gentle spirit. Her presence was calming, beautiful, and pure. Sweet Abby was only 7 months old when she was cruelly ripped from this world. Since then, my family and I have missed. I'm sorry, I'm shaking so much. Her first birthday, her first Halloween, her first steps, her first words, and her first day of school.
Oh my goodness, just heartbreaking there. Let's bring in our guest, still with me, family law attorney Jennifer Brandt, and want to welcome in parenting and family relationship expert, Dr. Sue Kornbluth. Ooh, I know your hearts break for this mom, for everyone who loved little baby Abigail so much. Dr. Sue, let's start a little bit with the psychology and the human aspects at play. What kind of strength does it take for a mother to do what we just saw baby Abigail's mom do and face the woman who killed her daughter?
Good morning, everyone. It takes a tremendous amount of strength emotionally to stand up there and read that emotional statement regarding her daughter, who she clearly did not know in a way that a mother and a daughter would grow together. And so to me, her pain is even more excruciating because she didn't have time to develop that relationship with her. And what she was showing there is what happens when you go through something like this. She's shaking, she's trembling, she has anxiety to even read these words because it is so painful to talk about something like this, and especially in the way that her child was taken from her. So what we're seeing here is just complete and utter grief by a mother who did not deserve what happened to her or what happened to her beautiful baby.
Such great insight and perspective, Dr. Sue. Thank you so much for that. Jennifer Brandt, I want to tap into your legal expertise, please. Something that happened during the sentencing hearing, the defense team objected to some statements that baby Abigail's mom was making about how the defendant would look at her while she was on the witness stand testifying in the case. And the defense team objected. We have that moment. Let me play it for you, and I'd love to get your thoughts on the other side, please.
During the trial, the pain that I endured reached a new level. I had to face the defendant after almost 6 years. I had to sit there while she smirked and smiled during my testimony, showing no remorse. The defendant not only mocked me, but looked me in the eye and laughed as I tried to speak Abby's truth.
I'm going to object to that. There is no record that indicates that my client did anything.
This is sentencing. She is the mother's victim. Baby Abby, I'll allow her, but we all went through the trial. Okay, we all sat through this trial. So this is her. This is the mother of baby Abby. I'll allow some extent leeway for her. Continue.
That's right. The judge has overruled right there. Jennifer Brandt, what did you think of that?
Well, look, it's her, it's her impact statement. It's her statement. She's expressing her feelings. And honestly, I understand, the defense, they don't like, they're trying to protect their client. I mean, she's trying to say, she didn't do anything wrong, even though we know she was convicted, and to make things worse for her client. But I don't think the judge is really paying attention to that part of it. I mean, he's listening to a mother who's grieving for her lost daughter. That's really what matters. And, really, the judge probably has already made up his mind about the sentencing. I don't think that the impact statement is really going to sway him one way or another. So to object, I understand the reason why they did it, but it really, in the scope of things, I really don't think it changed anybody's opinion about what was going to ultimately happen in the sentence he was going to give, which is a harsh maximum sentence. So the judge, honestly felt that this was a very, very serious incident that occurred, and that Dixie Villas should pay the price.
Yes, great points, Jennifer. Thank you for all of that. Dr. Sue, I want to circle back to something that you shared with us a moment ago about how you said that this mother is going to struggle psychologically, emotionally, with not having been able to develop her relationship with her daughter. And it's something I think we can really think about this case, other cases when you see parents having to bury their child, especially a little baby like this. Talk to us a little bit about what that trauma is like. What happens as the years go on, please?
First of all, Julie, I mean, this type of trauma, like I said before, is completely unbearable because you brought a baby into the world, and all of the things that go along with bringing a child into the world have now just been taken from you. What she said in the impact statement in terms of, I'm never going to be able to be with her on her first birthday, her first words, when she began to walk, her graduation, all of the events that are typical of the development of a child and that attachment that goes along with a mother and her child are now gone. Grief is an ongoing process, Julie. It is not as if it just goes away because the child is not here anymore. And as far as I'm concerned, it will affect her on a daily basis. She will have memories and flashbacks, and for all I know, she's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. But it is a loss that never heals and doesn't go away, and you have to learn to cope with it for the rest of your life.
Our hearts go out to that mother and every parent who's had to bury a child. Dr. Sue, thank you for that. Attorney Jennifer Brandt, thank you for all of your analysis. We'll look forward to having you both back on the show very soon. We're going to hit a break now. When we come back, an Ohio father is accused of killing a deputy after he learned that his son was shot and killed by police. Tense moments in the courtroom this week. Plus, a live look at the Massachusetts courtroom as testimony set to resume at 9 a.m. in the retrial for defendant Karen Reed.
Just look at that touch from Trinity Rodman.
Saturday night.
When she is on the field, she changes the game.
Saturday night.
Saturday night is our night.
The new Saturday Night Out is on ION all season long.
You watched while your patient was lying there being tortured.
What else was I supposed to do?
So much for your career in caretaking.
Interview with a Killer season finale, Sunday at 8 on Court TV.
Now for what's tipping the scales, a face-off of sorts in an Ohio courtroom as a father appeared for allegedly killing a deputy. This after police shot and killed the suspect's son just one day earlier. Retired Deputy Larry Henderson had nothing to do with the shooting death of Ryan Hinton. But authorities say that Ryan's father struck and killed the deputy in what could be an act of revenge. More now from Scripps News Cincinnati.
We're going to go right more. Right now.
As Rodney Hinton Jr. was brought before the judge for a bond hearing, things grew tense with this moment that brought everything to a standstill. A man who appeared to know Hinton tried speaking with him through the glass, prompting law enforcement to throw him out of the courtroom.
I cannot recall a case that I've ever seen like this.
The judge ordered Hinton to remain in custody at the Claremont County Jail without bond. Dozens of CPD officers, Hamilton County Sheriff's deputies, and those supporting the Hinton family watched on as the judge made his ruling.
This is the most unusual case.
The prosecution says the state believes Hinton ran over the first law enforcement officer he saw after reviewing body camera video of an officer shooting and killing his son, Ryan Hinton, a day earlier.
Defendant in his current state is a giant mental health question mark and is a clear and present danger and poses a substantial risk of physical harm to law enforcement officers and to the public.
Hinton's attorney, Clyde Bennett, says the 38-year-old father was not in the right state of mind around the time of the crash.
They think that what they're doing is right, and they think that what they're doing is right because they're not in their right frame of mind.
Bennett requested Hinton receive a competency evaluation. The judge separately ordered jail staff to give Hinton any mental health treatment that is available.
I believe my client was mentally ill and cognitively disabled. I want him to get treated.
My goodness. Let's talk about this, and let's talk about how emotional that father was and whether his emotional state is going to tip the scales of justice. Let's bring in attorney John Phillips, and want to welcome into the conversation now private investigator and military veteran Manuel Gomez. John Phillips, it seemed like we were hearing a hint of maybe an insanity defense already at this first appearance. What did you think of that?
I think that's right. You know, I think they have to go where this is, you know, a mental break caused by the death of his son. But look, the African American community in particular is sick and tired of being sick and tired. Okay, and I ran for city council, and my district has a huge African American population, and I went door to door and heard these families just grieve and feel helpless. And I'm a civil rights lawyer, right? And so I'm akin to this, but also had to hear the FOP out and their side of things. And you know, the two sides kind of pretend to talk to one another, but they don't. And this was just a mad father who has been deprived justice and feels like, why was his son shot, you know, for falling down? And I understand the circumstances of the gun near him, and police have a right to defend themselves and protect themselves. But it's just, it's a horrible situation.
No, it really is. And boy, you look at the close-up of the defendant's head, and it looks like he was injured in that crash too. And this video in particular, we want to talk about next. Manuel Gomez, want to draw your attention to this. So at the hearing, you could see the courtroom was packed with people supporting the Hinton family and packed with law enforcement supporting the family of Larry Henderson, the officer who was killed, the innocent party in all of this. We see the dad going past the line of the deputies and kind of, you know, staring down some of them, and the officers looking at him, staring right back. What do you think of this, Manuel?
Well, this shows the intent that his murder was deliberate, okay? And he's telling them right there to their faces, he's never going to be here again. And I just want to say the Rodney Hinton case, it also echoes of the Luigi Mangione case. These two cases show the silent rage in this country that we are witnessing, a general breakdown of law and order on top of the racial violence nationwide. In Ohio, there have been decades of justifying and excusing criminality. This is why it has led people to the point that we are blatantly celebrating people who commit first-degree murder. And this is what's happened in this case. Now there's hundreds of thousands of people on the internet, you know, raging support for Rodney Hinton, agreeing with what he did, just like in Luigi Mangione. I hope and pray that the prosecutor in both cases lay the full extent of the law, because we must send a clear message that first-degree murder and vigilantism is not acceptable in America.
Manuel, you're so right. Tell us more. You know, how does this feel for you as someone who served so many years? You've served in our military, had a very impressive military career. You served with the NYPD. You're a private investigator now. You've put your life on the line for people in the community. Did you ever think you would see the day where we're seeing exactly what you just said, where people are celebrating people who commit murders?
No, I mean, it's disheartening for myself and many of the other veterans who've served this country. You know, I love this country as much as my family and my mother, but it's just appalling that every day I see this, and I see this in New York, in California, West Virginia, Texas, New Mexico. You know, I'm a licensed investigator in New York, but I'm also licensed in 10 other states. So I cover all vast cases of similarity to this. And unfortunately, Luigi Mangione, Rodney Hinton, these cases are becoming more regular, and it's disturbing. The judicial fabric of the judiciary is deteriorating, and we need to do something now to correct it.
Manuel, you're so right. I want to hear more. We'll continue the conversation at another time, but thank you, and thank you, John Phillips, for weighing in on this case. We've got to leave it there for now, and I know we have to say goodbye to you both. John Phillips, Manuel Gomez, thank you both for your time and your expertise this morning here on Opening Statements.